part of the 66%, according to Yahoo, who were asking the question, who's Osama bin Laden? We have a list of Twitter. Yeah, we have a list of Twitter feeds that are like, who's Osama bin Laden? Is he a band also? Is he in a band? Or why is it important that we killed him? Shocking revelation.
Well, I'm just trying to get inside the mindset because, okay, think about this, all right? These kids were 3 to 7 years old when the World Trade Center was attacked, when the Pentagon was attacked, when that plane in Pennsylvania went down.
I wasn't even born when the Nazis and Hitler were around, and I know everything about them. And I knew it when I was like in the sixth grade.
I'm also trying to think, okay, besides, Obama's speech on Sunday, when was the last time you heard bin Laden even brought up in the press?
It's been a while.
Let's go to Erica in Humble, she's a 7th grade teacher. Good morning, Erica.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Hey there. So, let's say you're teaching 7th grade. What percentage of those kids would you say did not know who Osama bin Laden was, let's say Monday morning when you talked about it, or what happened?
I would say around 70 to 80%. They did not know. They couldn't even tell you that it was related to 9/11. Put it that way.
Really?
Can I who he was?
Can I ask, at what point do kids start having history taught to them in school?
Well, they have it in elementary. I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, especially, in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they're already getting lessons on history. And actually, it's less than kindergarten. They're at least learning about historical figures, historical events.
Yeah, George Washington, all that stuff.
Bingo, Rula. Right there, because they're learning more about, the early origin of our country.
Well, you start with that in kindergarten. You're not going to go straight for Osama bin Laden in kindergarten.
Is it because they go in chronological order? Because maybe we start studying with, the Revolutionary War, and then we work our way up to more current social events?
Well, Erica, let me ask you this. So how'd the conversation go on Monday? Did you open up the conversation? Did y'all hear what happened in the news last night? Or how did you realize that how many of your kids did not know who Osama bin Laden was?
Well, collectively, my team decided that, it was going to be beneficial for these kids to be able to hear the president's speech. And so whenever they walked in, we already had CNN pulled up for them to see, the little few-minute video clip that Obama was speaking to the nation. And half of them couldn't tell me who he was, what happened. They thought it was his brother. They thought it was a suicide bomber that hit the White House. They couldn't tell you what the Twin Towers were, where it was located. They had no idea what was going on. And we actually had to sit down before we could even watch the presidential speech. We had to sit down and talk about 9/11 and rehash things for probably about 20 minutes.
And so
went out the window.
So there, in that 20 minutes you're rehashing 9/11, are you surprised, even as the teacher, Erica, that all these kids are like, really, that happened? Wow, that's sad. Was there that kind of reaction?
Yeah, I was shocked. It completely floored me. And I'm not old at all. I was in 7th grade, actually, whenever the Twin Towers happened and everything. So, I realized that these kids were really young. But at the same time, there were events that happened in my parents' time and then even when I was a baby that I know about.
Right.
And so it floored me that they had no clue at all.
I hear you. All right, Erica, thanks for that perspective.
Well, think about it, Rilla. When we were kids,
have a great day.
When we were kids, we were taught about World War II, and at that point, it had only been over for, 40, 50 years.
Like Vietnam, I never understood it. I learned Vietnam through
movies,
Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and stuff.
I think I learned more about Vietnam through movies than I did about World War II I knew in school. I think Vietnam I also knew in school, but Vietnam I saw more in movies. It traumatized me to watch The Deer Hunter and things like that. Like, oh, God, that scares me.
Busy learning the tax test, they say.
Yeah, these texts say that you have to thank the tax test for that because they're too busy teaching them to test and teaching them real stuff. Let's go to Angela in Tomball. Hi, Angela.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Are you a 6th grade teacher?
Yes, ma'am. I teach 6th grade.
Okay, so what was the reaction in your class on Monday? Did you have a program of how you're going to talk about what the president said in the speech, or you give us the perspective on that?
Well, I knew my students would be excited because I actually did teach this year. 6th grade social studies is contemporary world culture.
Okay.
So we had just learned about the Middle East in February and March. So it was awesome. I taught them about who Osama bin Laden was. I taught them about 9/11, terrorism, all in the context of learning about the world, the Middle East.
Is that the norm, though, for that age, though? Because I don't remember being taught current events until probably a junior or senior in high school.
It seemed like a long time.
Because, we had to work our way up to it. We did go in chronological order.
I know,
but that's what I'm asking. Is that the norm?
They do change things, and so when I first started teaching 6th grade, it was more of the ancient cultures, like ancient Greek, ancient Romans, but they've changed things. So this has been the typical curriculum for the last few years now, and I do incorporate a lot of current events, whatever region of the world I'm studying. I have the kids look up current events for that region, And so my kids were totally psyched. They came in, they were like, did you hear? Because, of course,
Okay.
I live under a rock, and I don't watch the news.
Oh, wow. So they actually told you that the president was on last night. That's interesting. Okay. Thanks for calling, Angela. We'll move on to Abby, who's in Katy. She is in the 7th grade. Hi, Abby.
Hi.
Good morning. So before Sunday night, Abby, did you not know who Osama bin Laden was?
No, not at all. But I did learn a lot about 9/11 through, like, my parents. I never really learned it in school, though.
So what age were you when your parents told you about 9/11?
Well, I first learned about it when I was, like, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really know the facts until a couple of years ago. Like, I was, like, 10, I think.
So do the girls or the guys that you're friends with in your 7th grade class, would you say that you know more about 9/11 and Osama bin Laden than they did? Or they do?
I knew more about 9/11, but I had no idea who Osama bin Laden was.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my English class, and they're like, oh, Osama bin Laden's dead. I'm like, who are you talking about?
Wow. So do you, I mean, how do you feel about it? Like, my thing is, I don't know what this feels like to be a 13-year-old. You know, like, this is a huge thing in our history, right? And this guy, everyone, you see people cheering, and like, oh, yeah, you know, the number one most wanted man in the world is dead. Does this even faze you? Or you're like, okay, that's fine. What's next?
Well, at first I didn't really care until I, learned more about him and, like, learned that was not his only time trying to attack people.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom had told me, like, how much he, like, hated America and, like, I don't know. I just learned most of it from my mom.
Okay.
I learned a little bit from school, but not much. But I was actually kind of like, wow, well then, it's not going to happen anymore. No one has to worry about it.
Oh, see, that's another
I would.
perspective. But unfortunately, we do have to worry about stuff. But it's all.
But well, I think that a lot of it is okay. My daughter's 11. I don't think she really knew who Osama bin Laden was until this whole speech came down, and I explained what had happened.
But did you tell Faith what happened on 9/11?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
she
knew
knew about 9/11, but I didn't tell her the politics behind it or who these people were that planned
At that
everything.
age,
Because life happens, it's like, a lot of people, they got soccer practice, or the kids going to school all day, or maybe they got an after-school activity, and you don't really think, maybe today's the day I sit down and tell her about Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda and all that.
tell their kids things and they say really bad things, racist things, and things, hurtful
And it makes
things.
them not like certain groups.
Yeah.
Like
people
demographics
that are
of
like,
people.
they'll just say, oh, that guy is a blank, and
And they see
this
anybody
and
that looks like that person, and then automatically,
That's the worst kind of teaching. I'd rather have not know it.
yeah.
That's the
Okay.
thing about
What's interesting here is I think as general knowledge as World War II in Nazi Germany was, I think today is maybe how it'll be in the next 30 or 40 years to those students.
Yeah.
Because that'll be the more focus. But Victor in the Woodlands is in the 11th grade, and he knows who Osama bin Laden is from watching TV, but they did not teach him that in school. And Victor, even now in the 11th grade, you're still not learning about that world events like that?